Ever catch a whiff of your own breath and think, oof, what's going on back there?
It happens to the best of us.
Today we're taking a deep dive into one surprisingly common culprit, tonsil stones.
Oh, tonsil stones.
To help us navigate this hidden world lurking in our throats, I've got our expert guide with us. So, what exactly are these mysterious tonsil stones?
Well, tonsil stones or tonsilloliths are actually pretty common and usually nothing to worry about. They're basically little formations that develop on your tonsils.
Okay, so they're common, usually not a big deal, but can make your breath a little funky. Our source mentions something called tonsil crypts. What are those all about?
So imagine your tonsils like a sponge with all those little nooks and crannies.
Okay.
Those are your tonsil crypts, and they can trap bacteria, food particles, and even...
Hold on. What else could get stuck in there besides food?
This might sound a little strange, but tonsil stones can actually contain cellular debris from your own body.
You're kidding.
Like, it's almost as if these tiny formations are capturing little pieces of you, like microscopic time capsules.
That is both fascinating and kind of creepy at the same time.
Yeah.
So these crypts are collecting all sorts of stuff, but then what? How do they actually turn into full-blown tonsil stones?
Over time, all that trapped material can clump together and harden within those crypts, kind of like plaque buildup on your teeth.
Ah.
And there you have it, a tonsil stone.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, bad breath isn't the only clue that you might have a tonsil stone party going on in the back of your throat. What other symptoms should we be on the lookout for?
You're right, bad breath is often the most noticeable symptom, but tonsil stones can show up in some surprising ways.
Right.
Some people have trouble swallowing, a sore throat that just won't quit, or even a persistent cough.
It's amazing how such a small thing can cause so much trouble. The source also mentioned ear pain. Is that a common thing?
It might sound strange, but yes, some people with tonsil stones actually complain of ear pain.
Wow.
It all comes down to shared nerve pathways in the head and neck, so that nagging earache might actually be coming from your tonsils.
I would have never guessed that. So we've got these like ancient civilizations of cellular debris just hanging out back there.
Yeah.
What can we do to evict them?
Well, one of the simplest and most effective methods is gargling with warm salt water.
Oh, okay.
It helps to flush out those tonsil crypts and can sometimes dislodge the stones.
So it's like giving your tonsils a nice warm bath. Except instead of your fingers getting pruny, it's those tonsil stones getting evicted. I've also heard about people using those water flosser things.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that shoot jets of water. Do those actually work for tonsil stones?
They can. Water flossers or oral irrigators can be really effective at flushing out those hard-to-reach areas. It's like a more targeted approach to gargling, you could say.
High-tech gargling. I like it.
Yeah.
But what if those tonsil stones are a bit more stubborn? What are our options then?
Well, that's when things can get a bit more involved.
Okay.
For those larger, more persistent tonsil stones, a few medical procedures can help. One option is coblation cryptolysis.
Coblation cryptolysis. That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
Right.
What is that exactly?
Yeah. It might sound a little intimidating, but it's a very precise and minimally invasive procedure. Basically, it's a tiny laser that carefully targets and vaporizes those tonsil stones.
Oh, wow.
It uses radiofrequency energy to break down the stones without harming the surrounding tissue.
That's incredible. Our source actually said that coblation cryptolysis has been found to be superior to other surgical treatments. What other options are out there if, say, coblation cryptolysis isn't the right fit?
In those cases, a tonsillectomy might be recommended.
Okay, and just to clarify, a tonsillectomy is the complete removal of the tonsils, right?
That's right. It's usually reserved for severe cases, though, like chronic tonsillitis or recurring tonsil stones that just haven't responded to other treatments. There's also something called a tonsillotomy.
A tonsillotomy?
Yeah.
That sounds a bit less intense than a full tonsillectomy. What's the difference?
Think of a tonsillectomy as like removing the entire tree,
Okay.
whereas a tonsillotomy is more like pruning back the overgrown branches. It involves removing just a portion of the tonsils, the part that's prone to developing those troublesome crypts.
So depending on how bad the tonsil stone situation is, there's a whole range of solutions, from those simple at-home gargles to more specialized procedures. But ideally, we want to avoid having to deal with these things altogether, right?
Right.
What are some preventative measures we can take?
You're absolutely right. Prevention is key when it comes to tonsil stones. It all starts with, those two little words we hear so often.
What's that?
Oral hygiene.
Brushing, flossing, mouthwash, the Holy Trinity. But are there other things we can do to keep those tonsil stones at bay? Besides the basic hygiene stuff, our source mentioned something I hadn't really thought about. hydration.
Ah, yes.
Is that really a thing?
It is. Staying properly hydrated can really make a big difference.
Okay.
Think of it this way. When your mouth is dry, it's easier for all that debris to get trapped in those tonsil crypts.
Right.
But when you're drinking enough water, it's like giving those tonsils a continuous, gentle rinse.
So like a car wash for your tonsils.
Exactly. And it's not just about preventing tonsil stones either.
Oh, right.
Proper hydration is crucial for overall health and well-being. It affects your energy levels, your digestion, everything really.
It's amazing how something as simple as drinking enough water can have such a big impact. It's funny, we often think of these kind of like, small health things like tonsil stones as just like separate issues.
Yeah.
But as we've been talking about today, they can actually be connected to much bigger aspects of our health.
Absolutely.
Huh.
A healthy mouth often means a healthy body. Taking care of those, seemingly small things like oral hygiene and hydration, it all adds up.
It really does. Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive on tonsil stones. What's your biggest takeaway from all of this?
For me, it's a good reminder that knowledge is power. Even something as seemingly insignificant as a tonsil stone can teach us so much about how our bodies work. And the more we understand these connections, the better choices we can make about our health.
I couldn't agree more. A huge thank you to you and to you, dear listener, for joining us on this exploration. Until next time, stay curious, stay hydrated, and keep those tonsils happy.